Chasing your passion is ruining your life, and I found out this hard way. When I was in college, I had this reality that painted online. I was watching YouTube, watching these Sam Kolder videos and Jay Alvarez, and all these videos you've probably seen is just these guys traveling the world, going to places with blue water, and then taking their cameras to show them traveling to all these different places and vlogging, and basically creating a lifestyle off of telling people, hey, go travel the world and create videos and you'll be happy, right? And so I made it my goal from seeing those videos that I have to make this my reality. And I thought that would make me happy or give me fulfillment in my life, but I couldn't be more wrong, right? But I actually pursued this for nearly 6 years, right? So I was really approximately like 18 when I first saw this. So when I entered into college, I'd want to go to film school, but I couldn't afford film school. You can only go to a state school at UT Austin. So instead I went to UT Austin and I studied something completely different. I entered UT Austin studying biomedical engineering. But in the meantime, I spent all my waking hours outside of college to pursue filmmaking, right, and videography. So I had just like my parents always had simple cameras lying around, just like a Nikon D3100. I bought like a Canon SL2, and then once I had enough money, I bought like a Sony A7 III. But throughout college, I would basically skip class, take all my money to book flights to go to different places. I would study abroad in Europe. I would go to Costa Rica. During this time, I would outreach to hotels, brands, and create these videos to better my filmmaking. So in order to film all this gear, I would DoorDash. I delivered groceries. I offered, to film people's music videos, pretty much anything to continue pursuing this, right? So I was a freelancer throughout the entire time that I was in college. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved it. I was traveling to places, right? The highs just became more and more. First I would sneak into festivals, then I would we wouldn't have to sneak in anymore. They would actually allow me to film at the festivals, and then they would start paying me to film at these festivals, right? I filmed major EDM festivals in Amsterdam, in Mexico, with artists that were headliners, and I was having the time of my life. The only thing here and there, never really worried about money at the time, because I saw that progressively as I put myself out there and more my skill became better. I started working for free, and then people were paying me for the skills that I was acquiring. And throughout this time in college, it was great to pursue this as a side hobby, and I would do weddings on the weekend, and it paid enough for me to afford travel and doing this over and over. And so I was pursuing this relentlessly, and while at the same time I was interviewing for tech companies and just following the traditional college path of doing internships every summer, right? So I didn't necessarily get internships because I wanted to work in tech or be an engineer, all those things. I actually got those internships because I could afford camera gear and buy drones and pay for trips. And when I got to my senior year of college, I looked at what do I choose? Do I choose something practical? Do I continue interviewing and work for and try to get a job as a product manager or person working at a software company, or do I follow what I thought was my passion that I've been pursuing for the past 4 years? And one, I kind of had a sunk cost fallacy for both, right? But more so for filmmaking, because I've been pursuing it relentlessly outside of college. Like I would sacrifice going out with friends and going to parties. Even though I was a fraternity, I would literally don't do anything Friday nights because Saturday mornings I had to film weddings. And so on one option I had sacrificed a lot, and on the other option it was more practical. I could start college. I think at the time it was like if this was before people were laying off people in tech, but you can had roles that were starting at $70,000 a year, which at the time for me I thought was different, was decent, right? And so through my senior year, I was trying to pursue both. I was interviewing and pursuing freelance at the same time. And it came to a point where I was like, why am I doing both? Like I'm at a point where I need to commit to one thing, right? Because when you commit to one thing and put your full effort into it, that's where you're going to see the best results. So in my last semester of senior year, I was like, I sat myself down. My friends also, thankfully they're very, very helpful. They're like, well, we see you're doing these interviews and you're half-assing them, right? You got like an interview from Uber and you didn't do it. Like, what's wrong, man? I'm like, honestly, like, I don't feel like any of these companies can offer anything that I would find fulfilling or be happy. I don't want to do this. Well, they're like, well, you need to make a decision. Or which one are you going to do? Because if whatever you're going to do, you're going to put your full heart into it. Right? I said, you're exactly right. So from that day forward, I stopped interviewing for any companies. I wasn't going to work for anyone. I wasn't going to accept a full-time job after college or even pursue it. And so from then on, I realized, like, oh shit, now I have to make sure that in the next couple months as I graduate college, I had enough money and I had enough jobs to continue freelancing and live this life to where I can continuously travel. And so from there, really put a pedal to the metal, right? I would start taking on gigs, pretty much any gig, weddings, engagements, anything, even the things that I didn't really like to do. I would do cold outreach. And then I had a couple of college friends that they're like, oh, well, why don't we go to, my friend wanted to go to Thailand right as we graduated, like in May. And I was like, well, you know what? Thailand doesn't sound like a bad idea. And what better is it for me to exit college and put both feet forward and start pursuing this dream that I've been pursuing full time, right? Why don't I just go to Thailand on a one-way ticket and just see what happens from there? And exactly what I did. So I would save as much money as possible. I would do a bunch of brand outreach, post a bunch of videos. When I went to Thailand, I actually had backpacks and different brands that I brought with me to where I film videos and photos for them. So I had an income, right? So we went for 9 months, I traveled Thailand, Bali, Vietnam, Philippines, all these places for 9 months, basically until I ran out of money while I continued to make money at the time. And during this time, there's ups and downs, and most of the time I was traveling for really, really pleasure, right? So like most of my friends, they were, we were going out to party, we were basically doing everything. I was still filming things and doing the things that I wanted, but maybe I wasn't documenting as much, and I was viewing what I thought people did online. I viewed it as pleasure. I had the work ethic behind it, but I wasn't very disciplined, right? So throughout this entire process, I basically, while I made money, still lost money. Like I would meet like a personal trainer at like a Muay Thai gym. I'd film like a video for him for $500, but then we would go to another country, and then there goes the $500, right? The turning point came when I went to Bali. I met like-minded individuals like me, right? They were creators that were doing better than me. They maybe started when they were even younger and they didn't go to college, and they were working with brands like Beautiful Destinations. They were actually friends with Sam Kolder, right? So all these people that I looked up to, like I was finally in a room with them, and I was at a waterfall and I met someone. They invited me to a party, someone's birthday party, and it was all these creators that I looked up to. So I started hanging out with them more and more. And I started finding like a tribe of people to where I had shared interests and a shared passion. So I finally felt like I belonged, because I felt like I had to have a facade throughout the entire time in college. And more, I pursued this. For 9 months, I got this glimpse of reality on what these creators could accomplish. But I ran out of money. So once I got to 9 months, I had to go back home to the US. But this time when I went back home, I had this surge of motivation. Like, it wasn't sad that I ran out of money. I was like, I got to get out of this hole so I can go back to Bali and continue pursuing this, right? And so when I went back home, I would take gigs between Austin and Houston. I drive 3 hours just for a gig for $300. I would do weddings and live in my parents' house, sleep on my friend's couch, up until I can afford rent. Once I had around like $4,000, I got like a lease in Austin, so around $1,000 or $1,200. And so I'd fill my calendar with gigs, posting in Facebook groups, getting any kind of gigs from word of mouth. I would work relentlessly, and I saw that it really felt like to work full time as a freelancer, which was, I wasn't working 9 to 5. I was working like 10 to 10, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., working 12-hour days. Because a freelancer, you don't know when your next job's going to come from. So I'd never say no, right? Sometimes I would have a day or two without a gig. I would literally, I see a gig on Craigslist to go move boxes I would, for paying 50 bucks an hour, I was like, that's 50 bucks an hour anyways. I would literally go move boxes to make money, right? Even if it wasn't related to the camera. And so during this time, I was doing everything I could to make it, right? And I was doing quite well. I was making $12,000-$13,000 per month just from freelancing. But I was working 12-hour days, right? I worked at a real estate firm and they offered me a full-time job, but I didn't take it. I just used them as a retainer until they wanted someone full-time and didn't want to work with them anymore. But during this time, I saved up money. I bought gear. I was like, I'm going to go back to Bali and pursue this dream again. I had, a taste of it last time for 9 months. I'm going to go fully pursue it again. And so after working just for 4 months, I accumulated like $33,000. I went straight to Bali. And this time I said, I'm going to stay out here for as long as I can, right? Where I run out of money, I'm going to stay there. I'm not going to be a little pussy and go back home. I'm going to stay out there until like my spirit in myself could no longer handle it. Like if I run out of money, you're going to find a way. You're going to work at a hostel, work at a hotel, find any way to continue, right? And did that for 7-9 months at a time. But during this time, there was highs and lows. The highs in the beginning was I was reunited with my friends who had the same passion as me. So we would travel, do trips, do gigs together, travel to different places, and film different videos for YouTube and Instagram. And I was posting every single day for 9 months. Right? I created like over 300 pieces of content. Some days I posted twice a day. But during this time, I went viral once, accumulated 4,000 followers. But over this time, I realized that I met creators that were doing better than me, obviously, right? Like they were in the shoes that I wanted to be in. But I slowly realized that this wasn't all as the internet had claimed it to be, right? Like you're in Bali in these really majestic places, but I had a sinking feeling that although I was pursuing all these, beautiful places, I couldn't enjoy the moment, right? I was going to a fantastic sunset beach and I was worrying about flying my drone or capturing the right moment, never actually living in the moment. I was looking forward to it. But I was more so looking forward to the edits. I was looking forward to it becoming viral. And then when I would have a moment that I recorded that a video didn't go viral, it didn't turn out just as I expected, I would get angry. Right? And so I had these creators that were consistently viral, but they couldn't afford to go anywhere outside of Asia. They're living on, $3,000 or less per month, or even the ones that were making more than me. Their income was extremely inconsistent. And being young, you can travel and go to the Philippines and take red-eye flights, but more and more that was growing on me. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do this all the time. It's very draining. And I realized that this reality of traveling the world and creating content wasn't as it painted out to be. So chasing my passion, I lost my passion. Because in the passion, I couldn't live. I couldn't enjoy the things that I was pursuing to begin with. I couldn't go to a beach without thinking, what content I need to create here, right? I couldn't go to, a place and not think about the content that needed to be captured, right? I lost track of, what really mattered. And it's, do you enjoy the present moment, right? And do you feel fulfilled, right? And more so, I felt like creating content and being a filmmaker, pursuing this passion of mine, it was a I was wanting to get validation from the internet. Same thing as like GoHighLevel, Sam Kolder. It's like at the end of the day, you have to have a balance of creating for yourself and creating for others. And I wanted to be like them. And so I was creating my content to receive validation from the internet. And when I didn't receive that validation, I felt crushed. And during this time, I realized this passion that I had, it was actually a passion of getting validation for others for the videos that I created. And that isn't something that you could sustain on for long term. Because if you cannot operate and continue something from an internal locus of motivation and discipline, then you'll never be able to succeed. And what you thought was your passion was never really what it was at all. And so what ended up happening was more and more, well, I did have gigs. I was making around $3,000 US per month. I went to Taiwan to create content with my family. But more and more, I realized that this wasn't chasing my passion, being what I thought would be just going to these happy places, being happy all the time. You can't live as a person that's happy all the time. You can't travel to all these amazing places and just be happy, right? The greatest, I looked back on the years of my life, I realized the most, like, the feeling that I actually was looking for was fulfillment, right? And I was inspired, I was fulfilled, right? The feeling of meeting creators, other creators were doing better than me. I was inspired that I can do more. I had hope. I was fulfilled when I went home, had no money, but I was inspired at this hope. I worked relentlessly for 4 months to get $33,000 to go travel again. That time I'd spent 4 months grinding, living on a friend's couch to drive me 3 hours just for a gig. That was more fulfilling than the 9 months and, all the months that I spent traveling, creating all this content. Because I had done all those things in that 4-month grind for myself, right? Whereas I felt like traveling, pursuing that passion that social media tells you, pursue your passions. I was trying to validate my passion for others. And so I had greater, when I look at like the passion and happiness I was chasing versus the fulfillment I gained from being inspired and working relentlessly for myself, I was developing grit. I was developing things that gave me confidence that if I was ever in a pinch, I can do it again, right? So I realized instead of happiness and passion, I should be finding fulfillment. The fulfillment, it comes from pain. It comes from you going through shit and be able to say, hey, I'm okay with going through shit every day. I love to go through shit, and this is what's going to make me the person I want to be. Whereas if you're chasing your passion and trying to be happy every single day, that's just not reality. People become better people through pain and suffering and confidence. And you cannot go through change without pain and suffering and being able to overcome those things, right? True confidence and fulfillment comes from overcoming obstacles, not from changing validation, finding passion, and being happy every single day, right? So from there, I realized I didn't have a passion for it anymore, but I didn't know what was next. Right, I accumulated skills of posting online, creating videos, was good with camera. It allowed me to do all these things in person. So I don't know what was next, but all I knew was I needed to go home. So I went back home to the US. I had friends who started a company in New York, and they had a company subsidized apartment. So I was really thankful for that. They said, well, just come here, man. We have like this basement room. You just come here and figure it out. Right, we have an air mattress for you, just come here and figure it out. I said, perfect idea. I need to get out of my head. I gotta get out of the house. I gotta come figure shit out. So I took my remaining money and I booked a flight to New York, where they were, and I started just figuring things out. So I started trying to start a content agency. That failed, spend money on paid ads. But the key thing here was I was in an environment where people, it was almost a complete black and white contrast to where I was. Before, only months ago I was in Bali, we were chasing sunsets, trying to be happy every day. But now I'm back to where my friends were at a startup, and we wouldn't even go outside most days. We were literally in front of computers, just trying to build businesses, waking day in, day out, working every single day, versus before, I barely had any screen time because I was always outside with the camera. But I was more fulfilled than ever because I realized this is what I actually needed. This is actually who I was. Who I am is I find fulfillment from working relentlessly, overcoming obstacles. So I had a friend who started online business, an SMMA. He had to purchase a course from someone and was learning. He was a software engineer. And so I had all my bestest of friends in one apartment, and we were just working day in, day night. No one barely left the apartment except to get food, right? And in this process, I learned from my friends on how to start an online business, and that online business has turned into what it is today. right? And I worked on my SMMA working with HVAC contractors, and it was way harder than I thought it was, right? In the beginning, I had spent $7,000 on this new business. And I remember the reason I started was I spent money on ads to start a content agency, right? I thought I was going to continue being a videographer. I would go to different stores and even bubble tea places in New Jersey, New York, and ask them if they needed social media content. Right, but I realized I don't find passion in filming bubble tea on the camera anyways. And so my friend, I saw him making good money with SMMA. I'm like, you know what? I'm in a pinch right now. I just don't have money. I don't have anything scalable. Why don't I just do something scalable? You're gonna tell me exactly what I need to do. I will do it without question. Right? I would start it. I would not even think about it. I would just do it. I'm gonna become a man of action. Right? I would just do exactly what he told me to do. And that's like what I did. So he told me to choose a niche, to do these things in the business, to run paid ads, to set up GoHighLevel, purchase all these things. I immediately spent money on ads, around $7,000, and I started running ads and started working with HVAC contractors. I copied the exact process that my friend told me to start an online business similar to his. And over the weekend, I set up a funnel, started running paid ads, and immediately Monday through Friday, I had my first sales calls talking to HVAC contractors. And HVAC, he had given me two options. The other three options. You either work with solar, roofing, or HVAC. I literally knew nothing about any of these industries, and so, well, you know, I'll try HVAC. I'm just gonna choose. I'm just gonna learn it, and whatever I need to do. I started the business over one weekend. I had set everything up. I started Monday on my first call. I remember my first call. The guy had agreed to me running Facebook ads for him. But then when we went to onboarding, he said, oh, can we do this later? And then he ghosted me. And so for the next 6 weeks, I was taking calls from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 12 hours per day, sales calls. So they don't show up for the sales call, I'll call them over the phone. I was trying to get better at sales and media buying and starting my SMMA as much as possible. So for 12 hours per day, I would work on this. And I spent at $7,000 on ads before I even closed my first client. And I was a total beginner, and I was totally shit at sales in the beginning. And so one of the things was I signed up my first client. I'd offered to let him start out with no upfront cost, but on the first couple of jobs, he'd actually pay me. Right? And granted, I had no one had paid me upfront, right, to this point. And then so I was running Facebook ads for him. Would start closing the appointments, and there were some jobs that we're actually doing. Like my service delivery was actually working, and he refused to pay me. So my first ever client where I made any money, he owed me $3,500. He refused to pay me. First client, and I had been going through this for 5-6 weeks, and I thought was finally my taste of success. And he refused to pay me. So I was like, crap, do I go back to videography? Because it's been 6 weeks, this hasn't been working, right? But I felt extremely hopeless. But I had made some progress, right? To where whatever I did, it was possible. People were getting HVAC jobs through it. We're installing systems in people's home in Jersey. It's just this guy's refusing to pay me. But at the same time, I was really bad at sales. So I had a friend, introduced a mutual friend to train me on sales. He trained me over Zoom, 2-3 hour sessions. And thankfully, he did this for free, just as a friend. And I'm extremely thankful. He's a door-to-door salesperson, and he would totally grill me on the calls, saying I was completely awkward and don't even try to make small talk because you're so awkward. But I listened to him, and I never argued with him. I just learned and took everything that he told me and took it into practice. And 2 weeks later, started closing deals. First $750 per month retainer. And then in the first month, I made around $20,000. I spent $7,000, so I finally profited. But up until that point, the 6 weeks of no closing, it was a sigh of relief because I didn't profit until my second month. Right, of 2 months. And I remained in this house with my friends doing this for 7-8 months. I never barely left the house except to go to the gym and to go eat. I went through this process of scaling the business to last year was like 30K per month. And I would just continue scaling the business. There's a day in and day out doing the same thing, becoming inevitable, right? I was like, this is the process in overcoming obstacles and creating the person that I was being. I had absolutely no passion in HVAC. I have no passion. I didn't feel happy. Every time I actually closed a job that I made money, it was more of a sigh of relief than feeling happy, right? I mean, I maybe danced around the room for like 1 minute, but I was fulfilled because I was becoming better. And when you're becoming better, it's not supposed to feel good. You're gonna feel anxious. You're gonna feel fear. You're gonna feel stress, anxiety. These are all the emotions that you need to feel. But if you feel you just need to, oh, I just need to be happy all the time, that's not the reality. You're never gonna become a better person if you look for other people to tell you things, look for validation, and seek happiness. Real fulfillment comes from pain. And that's exactly what I forced myself to do day in and day out. Until towards the waning parts of the year, towards October, the business was stabilizing and HVAC was kind of slowing down. So I booked a flight to Portugal, and I was going to continue to work on the business. I was like, I've been working on the business long enough. I have a staff, right? I've hired some team members. I can finally go to another country and work remotely. So that's what I started doing, right? I worked remotely in Portugal, went to the Italian Dolomites, and then started traveling for good. But even now, fast forward to where I am today, made a lot of progress the past year. We're starting a lot of different things in different verticals. But I tell people who are starting, a similar business or anything today, is I said, man, I see you struggling right now, but that was the most fulfilling part of my life that I've experienced so far. That the struggle that you're in, it feels like shit, but when you have to see through it, that you overcome it, and then you become fulfilled, right? The struggle that you're in was what I look back and I wish I could go relive, because in that was me chipping away at myself, becoming the person that I am today. And you're never gonna become better without pain, struggle, and obstacles to overcome. So if you're ever in a point in your life thinking, should I pursue pleasure and pursue my passion and happiness? I'm not saying don't follow things that you're good at and that you're passionate about, but in this pursuit of anything in your life, you need to focus on getting better, challenging yourself. And if you're going to become better, there's going to be pain. So you never shy away from things that require you to stay up late nights, right? Be the guy that stays up late nights. Be the guy that adopts ridiculous hours. Be the guy that says no to social life. Have no social life. Be the guy that does ridiculous things to get better, because you're going to have what other people are unwilling to sacrifice. Right? You're going to have things that other people won't. 99% of people won't do the things that will actually get them to get better. They like to stay in comfort, right? So don't listen to social media and all these things telling you to pursue your passion, be happy all the time. That couldn't be furthest from reality. And if you're a person who genuinely wants to become a better person, chase fulfillment and becoming better, and stop chasing your passion.